Hey guys, what's going on? I hope everyone's doing well and looking after themselves. Welcome back. Before I get into today's video, I'd just like to say, with regard to my current thread, which is running, show 5 to 10 innovative albums, which you need to hear, I'd just like to say thanks a lot to all of the people who've participated in that. It's been, for me anyway, a really overwhelming response. Like, a lot of people have made videos, and I've watched each and every one of them, to my knowledge, from beginning to end. And it's been really interesting. Thanks so much everyone for your support, really appreciate it. And as a result of that, I've also discovered a lot of new bands and albums. So what I'm doing is compiling this massive playlist of all the stuff I need to listen to. So anything which people have mentioned that I haven't heard, I'm going to listen to it. So I have a big playlist. But yeah, it's been really amazing. And what's fantastic about it is a lot of people who I previously didn't know made videos. So as a result of that, I've discovered their channels too and watch their videos. So that's what it's all about, this thing. It's not really so much about the prize, it's just about people getting to know each other and recommending music. So I'm really pleased with the way it's happened, and yeah, couldn't be more grateful. So thanks a lot. Just on that note, the competition is still running until the 18th of December. So if you'd like to make an entry and you haven't, you still have time. Just to make it clear once again, if you have a channel, it's better to make a video, but if you don't have a channel, remember you can just leave your list in the comments to that video. So I'll leave a link to that thread, and you can just leave your comments. Everyone's eligible if you participate. So anyway, I mentioned that through this thread I've discovered a lot of new channels. Like, I've had a lot of new subscribers, so really appreciate that. Thanks guys. And as a result of that being the case, I've jumped onto some other threads. So what I'm actually doing in today's video is responding to a thread made by a new subscriber. That's John from Rock and Metal Plus. I believe that's the correct name. I'll clarify that if I have to. But yeah, he's recently done a thread. I've discovered his channel very entertaining, and I look forward to seeing more of his videos. He made a thread recently. He has this sequence which he does in videos called the first, the last, and the best, meaning talking about bands where he refers to their first album, their most recent album, and the one which he considers the best. And with the thread he's got running now, it's a similar thing where he's talking about that regarding certain topics. So he's saying, choose the first album you bought, show the first album you bought, the most recent one you bought, and the one which is the best to you, so like your favorite album of all times. And he also mentioned you can also do the first gig you ever went to, the last gig you ever went to, and the best gig you've ever been to. So I'm actually going to do both. So without further ado, I'll get into it. Sorry about the rambling. Okay, so talking about albums, the first album I ever bought, Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark. So you can see this is the original cracked case from 1993. That's when I bought it. I was only 14 years old at the time. And obviously I was into music. I'd heard a lot of bands and was a fan of a lot of bands, but this was the first actual album I bought. Like, at the time I wasn't working, so I think I saved up pocket money to buy this. But yeah, it's just got great nostalgic memories for me. A lot of people say that this album by Iron Maiden is a pretty terrible one. I disagree. I think maybe I'm biased because of the nostalgia, but for me every single track is absolutely brilliant, and it just has a special place in my heart because it reminds me of that particular time. So most famous for the song, you know, the title track, Fear of the Dark, but as James, Mr. Boulder, says, I feel that song, dare I say it, is a little bit overrated. But I mean, I still like it, but there are other songs on here which I'd much rather see them play live, like Be Quick or Be Dead, or like Chains of Misery, something like that. Judas Be My Guide, but like all great songs. It is good to note that when Blaze Bayley was with the band, he actually really liked the song Afraid to Shoot Strangers, so they went through a phase of you know, rebirthing that for a while, which was good. But yeah, literally every single track I love on this. Don't listen to what the haters say. It's actually a really good album. Check it out. So that's Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark, the first album I ever bought in 1993. Okay, talking about the most recent album I bought, I've got a collection update coming up, and it will feature this album. So I won't talk about it too much today, but this is just a little teaser for the next collection update. War Moon Lord with Battle Spells. So this came in a package in the mail recently. I haven't actually spoken about it yet, but yeah, the reason I got this, I have a friend from Brazil on Instagram. His name is Chris Lee, and he's got such an amazing collection, and he's always posting stories of his new updates. His house is decorated like gothic Dracula castle, and he's got loads of brilliant black metal releases. He showed this one, and I thought, I'm just blown away by that artwork. It's very sort of Lord of the Rings-esque, and I thought, just based on the artwork alone, I'm intrigued. So, yeah, beautiful case and disc. War Moon Lord is a Finnish black metal band, and they play that sort of bombastic, symphonic type of black metal in the vein of Emperor, Vargrav, and Moon Citadel, and also with tinges of Graveland, which I love as well. So, yeah, really amazing release. So glad I picked this up. I'm not going to talk about it in too much detail now. That will come in the collection update. But yeah, really good album. War Moon Lord with Battle Spells. So this was the most recent one I got, along with a couple of records. Okay, so talking about my favorite album of all time, that's really hard because, as I've mentioned before, I listen to a lot of subgenres of metal, so it's like I have a favorite one in each category, but if I had to limit it to one, I can't. So what I've done is I've chosen my favorite rock album of all time and my favorite metal album of all time. So first of all, favorite rock album of all time, Kiss with Lick It Up. Yeah, so first of all, this was the album which marked their unmasking. So they took the makeup off for this album. It came out in 1983, so it's got original members Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, also more recent recruit Eric Carr on drums, and new guitarist Vinnie Vincent. Vinnie was actually, he was in the band for the Creatures of the Night tour, so he was still in the band with the makeup phase as well. That's where he wore the Unk Warrior Whiz mask, which I think was really cool actually. I know the original members of Kiss said they didn't like it, but anyway, this is a fantastic album. Like, it's not popular to choose an unmasked album as your favorite Kiss album, or in fact favorite album of all time, but I just love this album. It's just infused with so much energy, fantastic songwriting, 80s atmosphere, shredding guitar solos. That's the thing. Vinnie Vincent, as one critic said, he had a fresh and fierce guitar technique. It was sort of in the vein of Eddie Van Halen, really shredding, but this album is just chugging, it's heavy. It's sort of like, remember the few albums which came before this? I mean, Creatures of the Night is an excellent album. That's my second favorite. That went back to their heavier roots, but before that they had The Elder and Unmasked, which were sort of like an experimental rock opera and a pop album respectively, but this shows the band going back to their, for lack of a better term, heavy metal roots. And this is probably the most metal sounding of the Kiss albums, just with some of the chugging heavy riffs and the fast songs and the shredding guitar solos, which are just blistering, just blow your head off. It is absolutely fantastic. So each and every track, 10 tracks, and this album is 10 out of 10. I love them all. Obviously famous for the title track, Lick It Up, which is a great song, but so many underrated gems which get overlooked, for example, a couple of the fast ones which I really like, Gimme More and Fits Like a Glove. Such good songs. They used to play Fits Like a Glove live, but then they abandoned it when they went back to the classic makeup era, but yeah, shame about that. But obviously, just because a band doesn't play it in their current live set doesn't mean it's not good. Like, this is absolutely brilliant. 10 out of 10. If you haven't heard this album, check it out. So that's my favorite rock album of all time, Kiss Lick It Up. Okay, now coming to my favorite metal album of all time. Again, I listen to many different subgenres of metal, but there's one album which never lets me down, never has, and that is Maduk with Those of the Unlight. So you can see this is a very shiny, glossy case, which is kind of annoying. And I've also got the CD version here. What I don't like about the record version is they don't show the logo. See, the CD version is much better. You've got the logo on the front here, and yeah, which is a very sort of iconic one. I love the Maduk logo, but yeah, so I got this one as a major fan. If I really like an album, I'll get the vinyl version as well as the CD version. But this is one album. I first bought it in 1998. Maduk was a band I discovered in about 1996 with the Heaven Shall Burn album, and I was already into other bands like Emperor, Immortal, Darkthrone and everything, but this band quickly became my favorite in about the year 2000 or something. I first heard this in 98, it came out in 93, but when I first bought this album, I just listened to it obsessively because I was so overwhelmed by the amazing atmosphere on this album. Like, it's fast and aggressive, but it's also balanced with melody and just this dark atmosphere, especially on the more somber parts, like on songs like On Darkened Wings and Echoes from the Past, which is an instrumental synth track, very atmospheric, But then you've got songs like Wolves, which are really like groove driven and just catchy. And Joachim Avgrav, the vocalist, his vocals are just so amazing, like really possessed and shrieky. But yeah, and just the rawness, it's not overly raw, but it's got enough bite to it to make it that sort of dark, crisp atmosphere. But like literally every single song on this is absolutely brilliant. And you know, it's funny, to this day, whenever I listen to this album, it just always commands my attention. So I'm drawn to every single track, and I'm never thinking of it as background music. I'm just completely into every song. I know every note, every drum beat on this album, but I just cannot get bored of it. So this is clearly why it's my favorite metal album of all time. So if you haven't heard this and you like black metal, essential Swedish black metal. So that's Maduk with Those of the Unliked. Okay, so now talking about concerts. I won't go into too much detail with this because in a previous thread response, I talked about these in a lot of details. That was Gordon's thread from the Blackened Hymns channel. If you haven't checked out his channel, go and have a look. In that one, he talked about the first gig you ever went to as well. So I won't go into too much detail with this, but the first gig I ever went to was Alice Cooper in 1990 in Sydney. That was the Trash Tour, and it was absolutely amazing. I was only 11 years old at the time, and that introduced me. It was sort of like a gateway to the heavier, darker sides of music, and I was obviously a fan of the Trash album, but just seeing those on-stage theatrics and everything, it really had a strong impact on me, visually and musically at the time. And the most recent gig I went to was actually in 2020, February 2020. That was Power Trip playing in Bangkok. So that was an amazing show. Like, it was my brother and a good friend of mine. They were really into this band, and they said, oh, if you like thrash metal, it's this young new thrash metal band. I wasn't familiar with them, I have to admit, and they said go and check them out. And I became a fan as a result of that concert. Just so full of energy, amazing vocally, great stage presence, and I was in the mosh pit, which was very sort of intense, like quite violent. It's quite funny, at the time I was, 41 years old or something, but I have to admit, I still love jumping around like an idiot at concerts. So I was in the mosh pit there. It was quite violent, but luckily I escaped injury. Really good show. And yeah, after that I went and listened to their music, and I thought, oh, this band is so fresh and energetic. They're just brilliant. So that was an amazing show. And it was the last one I saw, before all this COVID bullshit, basically. So since then, in Bangkok, there's been no gigs. I think they're still on hold. And then there were other bands that were supposed to come out that year, like Cancer, Maduk, Abath, all cancelled, so that's a real shame. So hopefully live concerts come back soon. But yeah, Power Trip was an amazing show. And obviously, it's very sad to mention that it was only a few months later that the lead vocalist, Riley Gale, passed away in sort of tragic circumstances. So a bit eerie, actually, that was the last show I saw. Anyway, rest in peace, Riley. It was a great show. Now, talking about my favorite concert of all time, I've also mentioned this before. I've actually got two to mention, though. I hope festivals count. First one was Wacken in Germany in the year 2000, so I was only very young at that stage, like 21 years old. But obviously, I was like a kid in a candy store. Like, that kind of music, those kind of gigs were just not played in Australia at the time. Oh, apart from some underground bands, but like Bestial Warlust, Sadistic Execution, but at the time they were playing, I was a bit too young to go to the concerts. But anyway, Wacken was an amazing show. I met a lot of friends there, from Belgium and Germany, and hung out with a lot of people. It was fantastic. And just check out this lineup. These were some of the bands I saw at Wacken 2000. I had to write a list because there's so many. I saw Dark Funeral, Hypocrisy, Immortal, Marduk, 6 Feet Under, Ancient, Morbid Angel, Entombed, and Venom. Wow, blew my mind. And then bands I should have seen, but I was too young at the time to know who they were Crocus, Blaze, Deranged, Iced Earth, Rhapsody, Samson, and Agatho Daimon. So, wow, it's just an amazing lineup. And this was in the day when Wacken was still very underground, and it's not like now where they feature a lot more mainstream bands and they sell out in fucking 2 seconds, which is really annoying. So those days you could actually buy a ticket. That was a brilliant festival. Also, another festival that I went to was Grass Pop 2015. I had to go to this show because it was the best lineup I had ever seen, like all of my favorite bands from the different subgenres. So the bands I saw at Grass Pop 2015 were Kiss, Scorpions, Judas Priest, Alice Cooper, Children of Bodom, Marduk, Cataclysm, Aborted, Morgoth, Psy, and Cannibal Corpse. Also, Korpiklani. And as I mentioned, I think Korpiklani is the best act I've ever seen because it was just so fresh to me. That's sort of it's Finnish folk metal, you know, featuring violins and accordions and everything. And the vocal harmonies and everything, it just blew my mind. It was so Finnish. And I just remember that when this show, it was very like jolly and kind of happy, but there were people not only moshing and slam dancing, but actually dancing, you know, to this music, because it's very danceable music. So that was perhaps the most striking live performance I've ever seen, Korpiklani at Grasspop 2015. Some other bands that I should have seen, but I wasn't aware of at the time, or they clashed with other bands, were Winterfilleth, Saka, which is Nocturno Culto's other band, Ishan, Airborne, and Cradle of Filth. But Cradle of Filth clashed with Scorpions, and I thought I have to go and see Scorpions because I'm not sure how long it will be before they retire. But anyway, yeah, so Wacken and Grasspop, in summary, were the best gigs I ever went to, and the best band, live band I've ever seen, being Korpiklani. Okay, so I've rambled on enough in this video, probably gone into too much detail, but you know, that's what I'm like. So thanks again everyone for watching, and once again with my current thread, 5 to 10 innovative albums, if you'd still like to participate, there is time until the 18th of December, so don't be afraid to get involved, and remember, if you don't have a channel, you can just leave your list in the comments. Okay, so thanks a lot, John, for this thread. I think the idea was really good, and it was fun for me to talk about these topics because it's something I've never done, so thanks very much. And also, congratulations on achieving 100 subscribers. I noticed this morning it's actually gone up to nearly 120, so well done. So if you haven't subscribed to John's channel, I'll leave a link in the description as well. Go and check it out, and that would be cool. Okay, guys, so thanks a lot. I'll be back soon with probably a collection update, the one including War Moon Lord, quite soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the near future. Cheers.